Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Second to None podcast, the podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network that covers everything and all things SEC football related. Here with my co-host, Tavarres King. I'm Blayne Gilmer, and Tavarres, we have football tonight. As we're recording this, there is actual college football going on. How excited are you?
Man, I'm hyped. I see you got it on back there. I got a nice little setup over here. I got it on back here as well, man.
Yeah.
I'm hyped about it, bro. It's finally here. It's the time everybody's been waiting on.
Yeah, if you're watching on the 365 Sports YouTube channel, you can see I definitely have the Ohio State-Minnesota game going on behind me. I got Tennessee over here on my phone over here. So we're going to try not to be too distracted while we're recording right here. But TK, it is – since we're all about the SEC here, we touched on Monday on those spreads to open things up, the Bet Online spreads, and we're going to hit our sponsor Bet Online here in just a second. But we're going to throw those back up on the screen for the people on the YouTube feed, on the podcast feed. You know, if you're listening to this, you can see here that Alabama is 19.5-point favorite over Miami. Arkansas, 19.5-point favorite over Rice. Auburn, 37-point favorite over Akron. LSU, a 3.5 favorite at UCLA. So that's an interesting one. Then you have Mississippi State, 23.5 at home versus La Tech. Monday night, Ole Miss, 9.5 versus Louisville. Texas A&M, 29.5 versus Kent State. Florida, 24.5 versus Florida Atlantic. The big one up in Charlotte, Clemson is a 3-point favorite over Georgia in Charlotte. 29.5-point favorites are the Kentucky Wildcats versus UL Monroe. Missouri, 13.5-point favorite over Central Michigan, but we're going to be talking a lot about that one here later. And then no spreads for the South Carolina and Vandy game. And as we're recording this right now, Tennessee is playing Bowling Green. They were 34.5-point favorite. We highlighted Joe Milton on our Wednesday episode, and Tennessee, as we're speaking right now, is up 7-0 with 8:20 left to go in the first quarter. So this show, if you're listening to it, is dropping on Friday morning. We're recording on Thursday evening. So those are all the spreads. We touched on those early, TK, and we're going to make our final pick. So we've been studying all week. Do you feel confident going into making these picks in week one?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about them. I mean, everybody should come out with a dub, I think, in the SEC this week. It's how I'm rolling.
SEC undefeated week one is what you're going to go with, TK, before we even break these games down.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at kind of some of the cupcakes we got out there, there's several that should be victorious. Obviously, Miami is one we're going to talk about later. Central Michigan, Missouri. But yeah.
Georgia, Clemson.
Georgia. No, we winning. What? Hold on.
TK rooting for his dogs, obviously there. And speaking of dogs, TK, we have one of your former teammates, a guy who really, you and him helped each other out with a lot of each other's success. Introduce our guest that's going to be coming up here.
Man, we got my dog, I call him Sticks, Aaron Murray, man. So glad that we can have him come on. Excited to have you, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron joined us earlier today. We were able to record with him. I had to go around, as you mentioned, the GOAT schedule over there. You know what I'm saying? He was getting ready to go see a little golf at East Lake, and they chop it up a little bit and talk about that. But we're definitely going to let him preview Georgia versus Clemson right after this word from Bet Online. Guys, I'm going to throw those spreads back up there one more time. It's that time of year again, and all eyes are turning now to football teams as they're back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, Bet Online is your number one spot for all pro and college football action this season. Get the latest updated odds, props, contests, including online's biggest $500,000 mega contest. TK, we talked about that, $500,000. Come on now. Come on.
I told you I'm betting all year.
That's
this Auburn Akron game looking real nice with this 37-point spread.
That's it. The world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest as well. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 100% welcome bonus. Take advantage of their opening day super promo and make a bet on Thursday, September 9th, with the NFL opener between the Bucs and the Cowboys. So if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when signing up using the promo NFL100. So use that promo. Bet online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Bet online, your online sportsbook experts. And with that, we're going to go right into our Clemson and Georgia preview with Mr. Aaron Murray. All right, now, as promised on the Second to None podcast, we have none other than one of the greatest quarterbacks to play in SEC history, definitely one of the greatest at the University of Georgia, Mr. Aaron Murray. Aaron, thank you for joining us here on Second to None to preview Georgia versus Clemson.
Well, thank you guys for having me, man. This is it's a big week. I'm pumped, and it's just a lot of excitement. Thursday night football, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. A lot of great SEC matchups. Obviously, the Tour Championship in Atlanta. This is, like, to me, one of the best weekends of the year because we've been waiting 8 months for football. We get it. We get some East Lake action and just get to sit back, eat, drink, and have some fun. So I'm pumped. And it's a little bit cooler outside. It's finally freaking 100 degrees out.
Right. My dog Sticks. I'm happy to have you on, bro. I appreciate you coming on for real. Really do. You talking about East Lake? You headed down that way?
I am. I'm going today to catch me a little something because I got to go call a game. I have Syracuse at Ohio this weekend, so I'll be up there in Athens, Ohio, calling the game. So this is my one day to sneak out of the house, go watch a little golf before I have to hit the road. This is the time of the year where I actually have to work, and I just can't play golf every day. As my wife likes to say, are you playing golf again today? So, I take full advantage of my schedule in the off season.
Right. Yeah, you got to. You deserve it, bro. You've earned that for sure.
I just got to get my swing like you because I mean, it's pretty buttery. You get through the ball pretty nice.
Yeah, I get through it.
I know you've been taking lessons from Rhett.
Yeah, I've been taking getting a few pointers. You might want to get some today when you checking them.
I know I'm gonna try to like distract Harris English on the practice range for like a quick second. Harris. Hey, Harris, go, give me just 2 tips. Like, I'm just not getting my hips. They're kind of stalling out a little bit. I just need one drill. Give me a little something so I can do my thing on the golf course. So I'll see if I can distract them first.
Yeah, that boy Harris will get you right for sure, man.
Well, you know what's funny? I had I had Ryan Skates. I don't know if you guys know Skates or not, former Georgia grad, and he lives down in Sea Island. And he's like, hey, can you come speak to the Bulldog Club down in Sea Island in October? And he's like, what's your fee? And I was like, all right, this is my fee. I said, but I'll knock the fee down if you give me a couple lessons with Harris English's trainer. I was like, I may even do the damn thing for free. If you give me 2 lessons, like on Monday, Tuesday, we'll call it even. And then, I'll head on my merry way, give a great speech, and head back to Atlanta. So he's going to try to work it so I can get some good lessons while I'm down there.
That's a solid deal. That's a solid deal. Speaking of deals, look, I got 2 questions. This is my first one for you. JT Daniels giving his teammates a little bit of his NIL. I know you would have got some coins back in the day, bro. Would you help little TK out, bro? You threw me a little.
I heard you on some radio show talking crap, saying that Aaron would never have done that.
I'm asking. Now I'm asking.
No, I wouldn't have. I would. This is what I would have done, and I've told all the coaches. I would have found other ways to take care of the boys, whether it's dinner, drinks. I don't know. If I would have been paid like 7 figures, man, everyone's getting a brand new scooter. Like, I would have bought the guys toys. What do the quarterbacks in the NFL do? They're not giving part of their salary to the offensive linemen. They're just buying them stuff and taking them to dinner and buying them ATVs and flat screen TVs. Like, that's how I would do it instead of – because then you have to divide it up, then it gets spread out. Then all those guys then have to go pay taxes on that money.
Right. You're right.
You got a 1099 your offensive lineman.
you got a point there, but I was just wondering, okay, if I would have took a scooter, appreciate it.
Yeah. See, I would have taken it.
we were talking the other day, Aaron, about JT Daniels saying, "Okay, boys, if no sacks this week and you get 1,000 apiece, something like that." But then, like you said, you got to end up 1099 in people at the end of the year.
They're going to be like employees of JT Daniels LLC,
Right.
But it gets really tricky at that point. And then those guys go spend it. They don't realize that they got to pay tax. It just gets really weird with all that other crap. I would rather much say, hey, no sacks, and I'm willing to spend $5,000 at whatever restaurant you guys want in Athens.
There you go.
Whatever, if you want to do that. And that way it comes out the same amount of money, and dudes get to go eat for, even if it's for 5 straight days, eat wherever you want.
It's a good time for everybody. So speaking of a good time, it's going to be a packed stadium, even with all the COVID stuff going on. It's going to be a just crazy environment up in Charlotte. Aaron, just before we get into our specific questions for you, what's just your overall general view of this game heading into it with Georgia and Clemson?
It's going to be awesome. I mean, it's probably going to be, at the end of the day, it'll be a top 5 game we'll see this entire season. I don't think it's going to be – just going back to last season. Last year was – and the year before was just crazy offense, especially last season. I mean, some of these games you watch, and it's like, this is stupid. Like, it's 7-on-7. There's no defense. I think this year we're going to see defenses start to catch up to what offenses are doing, starting to really understand how to handle the RPOs, the spread offenses, the up-tempo. They're going to catch up. It's not going to be 40, 50 points per game. So I do think this is going to be a lower type scoring game, as TK and I, both know. Offenses tend to be a little bit slower to start the season off. You're talking about 2 of the best defensive coordinators and defensive coaching staffs in all of America, 2 of the best defenses in all of America. So it's not going to be, I think the over-under is around 51. I would not be surprised if it's under that. I think it's going to be a great game, competitive game, back and forth. 2 teams that are loaded. I'm just excited to see it. I think it's going to be 4 quarters of just great football for the fans to watch.
TK, you got a question for him on quarterbacks?
Yeah, I agree with that. Everything you just said, Murray. But speaking of quarterbacks, man, and what no better guy to ask with you, being the leader of our team back in the day, what are some of the challenges you have JT Daniels might have with some young wideouts being out there, with some young guys? What are some of those challenges he might have with those guys being out there, and how can he aid those guys early on in certain situations to help with confidence and things like that?
Well, they gotta first make the game plan simple. I know fans want this thing to open wide open, and they want 4 wides and 11 personnel, 10 personnel, and they're throwing the ball over the ballpark. I still think the strength of this offense is the running game. Zamir White, Milton, Cook, Kenny, get into third and manageable situations. I think the team that can do that against these defenses is the team that's going to have the most success. You can't expect to win this football game if you're in 3rd and 7+ every single time. You got to be in 3rd and 3-6, 3rd and 3-5, 3 and 1-2 with the chance and the threat to possibly run the ball as well. So I think that helps the receivers because – let's say if you're in 3rd and long situation and you're going against cloud coverage or 2 safeties, it just makes it really difficult to run routes. It makes it difficult because you got brackets on the outside with the 2 safeties. You want one-on-one coverage. So as long as the offense can get into those situations, I think that's going to take some pressure off the receivers because they're not having to run deep routes to try to convert 3rd and long situations. I like this receiving core. I don't. They're not LSU 2 years ago. They're not Alabama last year. They're good. And hopefully they've grown up a little bit this offseason. I think it's hurt them to the fact that Kearis Jackson and Jermaine Byrne have been nicked up a little bit this camp, really haven't had the ability to get all the timing needed with JT. Because there's one thing to get spring and summer and the beginning of fall camp, but you're running certain routes against your defense.
Right.
And those defensive concepts. Now you need to learn to run those routes and those plays against what you're going to see against Clemson. And I just don't know if they've had the amount of time to do that at an extremely high level because of the fact they've been so banged up on the offensive side. So, like I said, my main message is really for the fans. Don't expect, in my mind, this offense, if they're going to want to succeed, to throw the ball 40, 50 times this game. I still think it's going to have to be a very balanced attack. Take some pressure off JT. Take some pressure off these receivers. where they're not having to convert third and long situations over and over again.
Right. And like you said, bro, it's early on. Offense is a tough thing to deal with early on because you're going to see different things that you might not have went over. Because they're going to throw – Clemson they have a great defense. They got a great front seven, just like we have a great front seven. They're going to throw some things at us that we haven't seen. So it's going to be tough to manage. So to that point that you said, fans don't expect us to throw the ball.
Well, to do what you're saying, it's so much easier for defenses. Defenses can go into a game plan with, 5 different coverages and 5 different blitzes and say, okay, listen, 2x2 sets, this is what we check to. 3x1 sets, this is what we check to. 0x3, this is what the check is, and that's it. And that's ingrained in them through the entire offseason. And obviously you make little tweaks based on what the team you're facing's personnel is, but for an offense, when you're seeing different defensive schematics, it changes a lot of stuff within the plays. It changes the quarterback, what he's checking. It changes what the actual route the receiver is going to look like. There's so much more detail that goes into the offense that it takes a little bit more time. It takes a little bit more rhythm. So, like I said, I think when you're facing 2 of the best defenses in the country and 2 offenses that are having to replace a lot, especially Clemson having to replace a good amount of skill guys, word on the street, Justin Ross got a little bit banged up with his ankle. Who knows how healthy he's going to be? I anticipate this being, a game that could be around 24-20.
And Aaron, to that point, Aaron, I wanted to say, with these defensive fronts, how good they are. Both teams throughout this fall camp, Clemson and Georgia, have been unsettled at center for different reasons. Clemson, appears to be running out a guy out there that's 6'2", 285 up against Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt. How concerning is that for Clemson going on when they have a guy who was a former, he was going to be brought to Clemson as a preferred walk-on, gets a scholarship right at signing day, and is 6'2", 285 taking on Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Jalen Carter, that kind of bunch.
Well, as a Georgia fan, I'm loving it, man. Let's go. That to me, that's what gives me confidence in this game is Georgia's front seven. And it goes back to my thought process of getting in third in manageable situations. And if Clemson can't run the football, they lose Etienne. Etienne was Mr. Do-It-All, whether it's catching or running the football. They've recruited at that position. They got guys there. They're not proven, and I don't know if they're ready to handle this big of a spotlight just yet. And who knows, maybe they are. But if you're going to say, hey, DJ Uiagalelei, I got to keep practicing. I'm getting
Uiagalelei.
You're going to have to put the team on your back, and you're going to have to go through for 400 yards because we can't run the football. That plays right into what Georgia wants to do defensively. So as a Georgia fan, you're licking your chops because if you can hold Clemson's running game and keep them to 1 to 2 yards a pop or even 3 yards a pop, that's a huge win for those guys, and that's going to take pressure off the secondary. I keep saying this is, to me, Georgia's defense reminds me a little bit about what the Buccaneers were able to do last year versus Kansas City. 11 personnel, you got a 6-man front, 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers in the box, and you're able to play 2 deep. Mm-hmm. You're able to put a safety over, Tyreek. You're able to bracket Travis Kelce. The same thing can be done versus Clemson. If you're able to stop the run and just be able to keep 6 guys in the box, be able to double team Justin Ross over the top, and then bracket whoever else you want. I think, to me, that's how Georgia's able to really dominate not only this game, but really the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think Georgia quite possibly could end up stopping Clemson's run game with only 5 in the box in this game. Honestly, they're that dominant with Jordan Davis. But last thing on the centers, how unsettling is it as a quarterback for both Daniels and Uiagalelei that they've had to rotate centers throughout camp? I mean, going into game week and you still don't know who your center may be. How difficult is that to tell people in terms of protection calls, run identifications, just center quarterback exchanges?
Well, it starts with the center quarterback exchange, and I just hope that both centers have a dry behind, because there's nothing worse than one center is nice and dry and the other one's all wet, and it gets soggy and nasty. Luckily, Ben Jones and David didn't really sweat too much on their butts, so that was great. But that makes a huge difference. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the communication with your center is key. You trust that guy. As I'm getting lined up and looking at the secondary and making any checks I need to with the receivers, you're trusting him to really get those other 4 guys in the offensive line set. So if there's uncertainty with that guy, if, hey, I haven't had enough reps, I don't completely know everything I need to know, that just puts more on the quarterback's plate, which, I mean, both these quarterbacks should be able to handle all of that, but it's nice to divvy up some of the responsibility.
Absolutely. So TK, you were angling for a Dr. Pepper sponsorship for the show. Now it sounds like Aaron's, angling for us to have a Gold Bond sponsorship for this show, something like that. TK, you got anything for Aaron before we get out of here, man?
Man, nah, Sticks, go learn something at East Lake today so we can get out there and you can teach me something new. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. Really do, bro. Thank you for coming on.
And just Aaron, just so we have it on record before we get it out of here, what's the prediction? Who's going to win this one on Saturday?
I got Georgia 24-20. Great defensive struggle. I just like Georgia's ability to get in those third and manageable situations, run the football a little bit better, be more balanced on offense compared to, I just don't know if Clemson can have that balance against elite defense. And don't forget, because this is going to make my boy Drew Butler happy, Georgia does have the better special teams. So in a game like this early on the season, special teams plays a huge part. And I think our 2 guys are better than their 2 guys. So that's one part of the game that check box, Georgia special teams. Now you just got to win offense or defense.
And keeping up with the golf theme, Jake Camarda famously came to the podium last year during a press conference and said, "I'm only answering questions about golf." So, that's what Kirby gets for putting the punter out there to answer questions. But Aaron, we thank you so much for joining. You have it here. He's picking Georgia 24-20, and that is Aaron Murray on the 2nd to none.
All right, and a big thank you there to Aaron Murray. TK, a true SEC legend. I think for the longest time before some guys came through here recently, Aaron was right up there in the most passing yards all time, and had a lot of passing records actually in the SEC. And you had a big hand to do with that. So pat yourself on the back there, TK.
I give myself a little one of these, but man, hats off to him for a phenomenal career. Proud of him, proud of who he is, proud of what he's doing now. In his commentating career, just some phenomenal work, especially with his ESP work that he does with his program. That's amazing as well. But yeah, getting back to what he was talking about, the big game, I kind of agree with a lot of what he was saying. If we're gonna be successful Saturday night against Clemson, we're gonna have to be able to get the running game going. That's gonna have to be something that is a major emphasis. Obviously, it'll be tough against their D line, but I was looking at something today. We've got a lot of experience up there. We've got a lot of guys that's rolled and played in some pretty big games. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see that matchup of our O line, their D line, and vice versa. It's gonna be awesome to see that.
No doubt, and in terms of Georgia's offensive line, really the only person that's truly inexperienced would be if Cedric Von Prawn has to play center, if Warren Erickson's not able to, because you got guys like Jamari Sawyer up there. You've got Justin Schaefer up there, who's back for a 5th year. Right. Georgia's got plenty. McClendon played last year and was a freshman All-American. I mean, he was stellar. So, you've got a lot of experience up there. And Georgia, to your point, I do, and to Aaron's point, I think it's important that they run the ball because Clemson is so good at rushing the passer. Those guys are, Kirby Smart said in his press conference this week, they're built to rush the passer. They're smaller D linemen. They're not big run pluggers. They're more, attack, shoot gaps. So if Georgia's able to run the ball right at them, that slows them down from pinning their ears back on that pass rush. And I think that's going to be a big key. But vice versa, like you said, TK, I don't know if Clemson, as I pointed out with Aaron, I don't know if Clemson's going to be able to handle Georgia's front 7, especially if they're starting a 285-pound center that's never really played before against guys like Jordan Davis.
Listen here, dude. Big dog like Swedish Fish I seen on his Instagram.
Jordan Davis.
Yeah, he going to gobble them boys up.
That's it.
He going to gobble them boys up like some Swedish Fish. 285, that's a little light for Jordan, man.
No doubt. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is Georgia, they're inexperienced, admittedly, on that back end, and Clemson's receivers are a very, very good core of receivers. They're probably the strength of that offense, I would say, right now. So, TK, one thing that happens when you have quarterbacks that are able to extend plays like DJ Uiagalelei can extend the play is you have to worry about that scramble drill. And I know that's something that you guys worked when you were on offense at Georgia, working that scramble drill because Aaron was able to move around and extend plays as well. How does a defense – what's the best way for a defense to prevent that from happening to begin with? What does Georgia need to do to prevent those big plays over the top on the scramble drills and things like that?
Well, that would be putting pressure. Well, make them one-dimensional, first of all. Make them one-dimensional. Make them have to throw the ball. But then secondly, keep DJ inside the pocket. One, collapse that pocket so he can't get outside the pocket and create plays downfield that are secondary and shouldn't have been there. And then plaster. When he gets outside of the pocket, plaster to your man. Get right up in him, kind of like Gary Payton used to do.
That's it. A glove reference on second to none.
Yeah, I brought it back.
We're bringing back all kinds of pop culture references, NBA references. TK is going to be doing. He's going to be talking about who knows what next. It's going to be. That's why you turn into second to none. All right. So now we have another game that is a pretty big game. Alabama 19.5 points given to them versus Miami. But TK, I did want to say before we hit that. You mentioned before cupcake games. Let's go ahead and rattle off our predictions. We think Arkansas, Auburn, Texas A&M, Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Vandy. No worries this week, right? All of them going to run the table.
Yeah, they're going to run the table. Now, if you betting online, you might want to take a peek at these. Throw them spreads back up there.
Yeah, we'll look at the spread side. The one that TK wants everybody to look at is that Akron 37.5. That Akron's getting 37.5 at Auburn. That TK, what do you think about that?
I told you, my man Kanate Mofield told me they ain't letting them put 37, bro. Come on, that's a lot. He said it.
Yeah, and it's a change of philosophy there too. I think the betting line is still thinking Gus Malzahn's there in that spread attack, not the Brian Harsin and Mike Bobo pro style that Auburn's still getting used to. I know you guys put up a lot of points with that, but they're still getting used to it, So
we did, and to that point, early on we struggled. I think early on we struggled. I think we played Buffalo early on. In the first 3 quarters, we were struggling to do some stuff. I think Murray and I actually missed on like 2 or 3 post routes, so he could have had some more records, But no, to that point, it's early on in the season. 37's a lot, bro. 37's a lot to give those guys early on, learn a new offense. So that's something to take a peek at, my bettors, my fellow bettors. I'm a bettor too.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have Alabama versus Miami now in Atlanta. Alabama, of course, comes in a heavy favorite, 19.5 points, so not quite 3 touchdowns, which I think is the mark that Alabama could win this game by. You have different thoughts, maybe think Miami may test them a little bit. My big question coming into this one, TK, is, you got Bryce Young, who obviously he signed the big NIL deal, almost $1 million worth of stuff this offseason. There's lots of hype there, but I got a question: is he that guy? Is he the dude that looked good, great in high school, and everybody's expecting him to be at Alabama?
I mean, that's what we're waiting to see, man. He gets a big opportunity here in Atlanta. What you called their second home. We got beef for that too. But he's got a big opportunity here in Atlanta against Miami, a Miami team that's I think it's pretty good. And on the offensive side, Derek King, I think he's going to have to really carry that team if they're going to come out victorious. Although they do return 95% of their offense, which is huge. But again, they're going up against a Bama defense that I think returns how many of their guys? 8?
3.
Oh, 3.
Three returning starters on offense for Alabama, 8 returning starters on defense.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. So you think about that, you got eight guys that have been in the Nick Saban defense for a year, then they know a little bit. So Derek's got his hands cut out for him. 19 points for my bettors. Man, I say it's tough to bet against Bama. I say take Bama.
Absolutely. So he's gonna say that Alabama covers. TK, what they say? Good teams win, great teams cover, right? So that's what happened. That's what the bettors like to say. Great teams cover. So we'll see if Bama covers the 19.5.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing who steps up around Bryce Young, because as we mentioned, 3 returning starters for Alabama on offense. They lost so much production to the NFL. Is it going to be, one of those young receivers like an Ajayi Hall or a Ja'Cory Brooks? But both of those are true freshmen coming in, first ever game in a big game national TV environment. TK, you talked about that on Wednesday, what that is like in terms of making those adjustments on the fly and things like that. It doesn't matter how talented you are. The nerves are still there. And, we'll have to see if Alabama can combat those. Somehow Nick Saban seems to have some kind of special elixir that turns those guys into robots, and they don't have any nerves. They just seem to play at a higher level. But as you mentioned, Miami brings back everybody on that offense except for Brevin Jordan. But Brevin Jordan goes to the NFL, major tight end. Well, they bring in a 2-year starter from Oklahoma in Charlton Rambo, who can just light people up as a receiver. So lose a little bit of the tight end position, gain some at wide receiver. So it's going to be I think a high scoring affair. I still think Alabama's defense, even though they return 8, I think Alabama's defense lacked last year. I mean, you saw what Ole Miss did to them. They put up, almost 60 points on those jokers. I mean, it was crazy.
I mean, yeah, they lacked, but again, to that point, they got a year under one of the greatest minds, bro. One of the greatest defensive minds ever, if not the best ever. So they've had time to learn. They've had time to grow. So again, take those points, people.
And speaking of taking the points, if you want to score points with some of your friends, guys, you need to go to Play Action Pools. If you're wanting some camaraderie in the office and things like that, our podcast is partnering with Play Action Pools this season to bring some interactive sports fun, and you'll be able to get in on our Play Action Pools, the Bleav Podcast Play Action Pools Pick'em Challenge, which is open to everyone. So what you need to do is go to the Bleav Football Pick'em at playactionpools.com, and then you get your picks each week. We're going to select 10 highest profile games of the week between NFL and college, and whoever gets the most picks each week will win a pair of Ledger sunglasses, DC shoes, lots of prizes like that. Again, go to playactionpools.com and sign up for the contest. Bleav, that's BLEAV, Football Pick'em. And if you plan on hosting your own football contest, go to playactionpools.com today. There's Survivor Pick'em pools as well as sports style concept called Build Your Bankroll. Playactionpools.com, your new home for office sports pools. So TK, we may have to get some guys together and do a little pick'em challenge later in the year or something like that. But speaking of pick'ems, we've had an interesting dialogue going back and forth this week on this Missouri and Central Michigan game. This could have been one of those that you would think would go in the cupcake pile, with a group of 5 team coming down to an SEC school. Yet Central Michigan, there's just some things to like about that team, is there not, TK?
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the finer details of things, obviously, Jim McElwain is not going to be in the game. We're hearing.
Appendicitis got him.
Yeah. Ow. Yeah, that sucks, man. Prayers up for him. But yeah, I mean, Central Michigan returns 21 of 22 starters, y'all. I think we talked about that a little bit on Wednesday. That's crazy. So the experience there, I'm a big experience guy. I stayed at Georgia 5 years. So, so I'm big on experience, man. I think that experience is huge, but with your coach not being there, I think that's tough. I think that takes a little element out of it.
Well, it may take an element out of it, but I wanted to ask you too, as a player, when you have a coach that's maybe going through something, do you kind of play for the coach? Could it also be a rallying factor too, type deal?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's definitely in their head. Let's do this for coach. But it's tough to do things. Everything changes for everybody. The pecking order. OC has to make decisions that he wasn't making. Stuff like that, or the DC, whoever is allotted, that job. Now that Jim McElwain's not going to be there on Saturday, then
he gets to be 4th down. They're like, who's going to make the call? Who's going?
Punting? Everybody looking around like, damn. But no, So I mean, it's tough. So it's tough for everybody. I think it's a definitely a little bit of adversity for those guys to be facing early on, before a whistle's blown to start the game.
Absolutely. And then, so Daniel Richardson is the quarterback returning for Central Michigan. He's 5'10", 205, a little bowling ball, like round mound or rebound running through there with Charles Barkley style. But the dude can ball. You go watch his highlights. He can really play. So we have referenced on this show now Gary Payton and Charles Barkley on this show. Who knew? Who knew that was coming? But also they have a running back in Lou Nichols. Send a little link over to you. You had to watch some of his highlights, man. Lou Nichols was the MAC freshman of the year. That man is electric. I mean, he makes plays.
He can tote it. He's elusive. He's explosive. He's special, man. I mean, I like him. I like the round quarterback as well. They both can get down, man. So I feel like the opportunities there for them to make some plays for sure.
And there's a lot of pressure to me on Missouri to actually, take care of business in this game because they go to Kentucky and to BC all in their first 4 games. That's 3 of their first 4 games are what I call losable games. And Connor Bazelak has to do more this year because Larry Roundtree, who was the leading rusher all time at Missouri, the all-time leading rusher, is gone. He's in the NFL now. So, more on Connor Bazelak this year. He had 7 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Definitely they want to see that ratio improve for him. Can't turn the ball over as much. Of course, that was only in 10 games, but just be on upset alert. But let's go ahead and, so we've got you. I know you got Georgia beating Clemson.
Yes.
I know that we're both picked Alabama to beat Miami. Now, when it comes down to it, are you putting Missouri officially on upset alert and picking CMU, or are you going to say Missouri holds on in Columbia?
Man, it'd be fun. It'd be fun, but just given the circumstances, man, I just think it's just it's a lot. Even though they have experience, that's a tough one. Man, let's go, Central Michigan. Let's go. I'm rolling with Central Michigan, man. Let's go.
I like them too. I think it's going to be kind of the rallying cry, playing for Jim McElwain, type deal. And I think those playmakers are just there. And Eli Drinkwitz, I'm not going to lie, he's kind of goofy, man. He was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, trying to be like Lane Kiffin in the press conferences this offseason. So I don't know. I think we're going to both go with Central Michigan. Now, a game that we touched on earlier in the week, LSU, UCLA. We don't really have a whole lot of notes on this one or anything, but we know that LSU is the more talented team, and we know LSU should win this game. My only question is to you, TK, does the impact of them with Hurricane Ida having to go to Houston midway through the week and then leave from Houston over to UCLA and being gone from your home element for so long, does that impact this game enough for you think UCLA coming off a huge victory, a 44-3 victory, I think, over Hawaii? Does that impact this game enough for UCLA and Chip Kelly to take down Ed Orgeron and the LSU Tigers?
That's a really interesting game. Another game due to circumstances that I think is interesting. Obviously Chip Kelly has a high flying offense. They're electric, but Coach O and LSU, man, they're built for this. I think they're built for this. I think that they're built for adversity. New Orleans is a place that's built for adversity. So I think that the Tigers will go out there and be victorious. I think they'll take care of business, kind of like what you just said, man. They're probably thinking the same thing. We're going to do this for Nolan. So I think they go out there, chomping at the bit, ready to get after it. That's one that I'm excited to watch, actually.
Yeah, I think LSU wins, but I think this one's tight for a while just because I think LSU's been going through a lot, but I think ultimately the talent disparity, the depth disparity will win out for LSU. I really like Max Johnson, Oconee County kid, from here in Georgia, and the crafty lefty that did his thing against Florida last year when Florida threw the shoe and ruined their whole season. So, you gotta bring that up, of course, on this. I think that should be like a once a week thing. We have to bring up the dude threw the shoe and threw Florida's season away. But anyways, we're both going to the LSU there. And then our final game that we got to get to is Ole Miss and Louisville. That's played on Monday night. The Lane Train, year 2, rolling in there. It's in Oxford, so Louisville's coming to Ole Miss. What do you think? What do you like about this game in Lane Kiffin's second year?
This game
Monday night
in
Oxford.
Oh baby, man! I'm on the Lane Train, man. I think he's got those guys rolling. I think that he has them focused, and I think that they play a different kind of ball. They play fast. They play high speed. He's trying to play a lot of snaps, a lot of plays. He's trying to score a lot of points. So this another fun game that I think that will be interesting. Obviously, they got to replace Elijah Moore, but they've got their 3rd, 4th, and 5th
returning receivers.
Receivers. So, again, kind of to the point that I said about, Coach Saban being an amazing football mind, but defensive mind. Lane Kiffin finds a way, dude, to make offenses just explode. So I'm interested to see how good they'll be, and I think that they come out on top for sure as well.
Yeah, they're a 9.5-point favorite at home. Matt Corral, I put in our notes, he's that dude. I mean, he is a bona fide Heisman Trophy candidate. If Ole Miss can win enough games, he could be very much so in that Lamar Jackson type realm where Lamar and them, Louisville wasn't in a national title picture, but he put up so many numbers that he had to win that Heisman Trophy that year. Matt Corral could do the same thing. The guy can really run. He was their second leading rusher last year, threw for a ton of yardage. And he's got Braylon Sanders, Don Terry Drummond, Jonathan Mingo, and then John Rice Plumlee, who was the quarterback before Matt Corral, also a baseball player at Ole Miss. He moves out to slot receiver, so have that little Wes Welker type element to it out there, a fast slot guy. And then, of course, on the other side, you got Malik Cunningham, who's a third-year starter now for Louisville. I mean, he's going to be, he is a true dual threat. TK, there may be 100 points scored in this game because Ole Miss can't stop a soul now.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, they were ranked, 117th in scoring.
Last year, they were the 117th ranked scoring defense. For reference, there's only 128 teams in the country, folks.
Yeah, they need to start recruiting some defensive players. They can score, like I said. Like Lane Kiffin is – He's gonna figure out a way to put them points on the board, and to that point, that's probably why he's trying to play so fast because he knows, damn, we can't stop nobody.
He knows they got to score, but
plus the clock.
He knows they got to score. So just for reference, Ole Miss 117th scoring defense last year, 101st against the run, and 125th against the pass. Again, there's only 128 teams that get measured in these things. So, the Louisville and Ole Miss could be putting up a lot of points. If you're betting on that one, I don't know what the over is on Bet Online, but take the over. Take the over on that one. It's going sky high. So, but TK, we've done it, man. We've week 1 of Second to None. I've had an absolute blast. We've had our first guest on with Aaron Murray coming on. Tell people on Monday when they tune in Monday, what are we going to be doing? A little from this weekend. What are we going to have for them this upcoming Monday?
Man, on Mondays we'll have Reaction Mondays. Blayne and I will be reacting to the weekend, all of the top plays. Hopefully, later on in the season, I'll break down some stuff, some plays and things like that. But it'll be Reaction Mondays on Monday. I'm excited about it, and hopefully we'll be happy.
Oh, yeah, the SEC should have a big weekend. So for Tavarres King, I'm Blayne Gilmer, and we will catch you next time on Second to None. Presented by Bet Online and PlayActionPools.com.